Good evening, and thank you for joining us. We are happy to have you here to have a great conversation with myself and a couple of our medical students. I am Bonetta Horn. I am Assistant Dean for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, also Director of the Office of Multicultural Affairs here at Tulane School of Medicine. We're happy to have you with us to have a conversation about some initiatives in the Office of Multicultural Affairs. A little bit about myself. My responsibilities include fostering an inclusive environment for all of our trainees here at the School of Medicine. In addition to serving our trainees, I also serve our faculty, administration, and staff in ensuring that we have an environment of cultural competence. Also work with providing training, anti-racism, cultural competency training, anti-bias training here at the School of Medicine. We're going to have a conversation tonight with some students who have been the beneficiaries and whose experiences have been enhanced by our Diversity and Inclusiveness Initiatives Fund. We will talk with two students. We had three students scheduled to appear with us tonight. One student could not make it due to an obligation that he could not get out of. But I do want to welcome you to enjoy this conversation with us. I welcome you to put your questions in the chat. We're going to, I'll begin with a little background information about myself. I am a lover of all things higher ed in the city of New Orleans. I hold degrees from Xavier University of Louisiana, LSU Health Sciences Center, and the University of New Orleans. I've been a Tulane employee. This is actually my 20th year, and I've been at the med school since 2015. This is not a job or a career for me. It's a passion, getting to serve this community and to ensure that equity, diversity, and inclusion are infused into everything that we do. As I said to you before, we have a couple of students that are going to share with us tonight. The first student is Miss Edith Mpamsa. She is currently a fourth year student at Tulane School of Medicine, and she will come on and introduce herself. And our second student is Dr. Andre Jordan, also currently a fourth year medical student here at Tulane School of Medicine. Again, I'm happy to have you have this conversation with us. And I'm going to ask our students to come in and introduce themselves. Edith, I'll have you go first.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Edith Amponsa. I am a fourth year student, like Dr. Horn said. I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa, and I came to New Orleans by way of Virginia and North Carolina. I completed my undergrad at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, and my master's in public health, focusing on maternal and child health at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I took a bit of a detour on my way to med school, but I have been here in New Orleans for almost 4 years now, and I've had a great time. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Edith. Andre?
Hi, everyone. My name is Andre Jordan. I'm also a fourth year medical student at Tulane School of Medicine. I was actually born in Guyana in South America. My mom actually moved up here with my sister and I when I was about 9 years old. I did my undergrad at Syracuse University in biology. And then I did a post back at Brooklyn College in chemistry. After that, I got very interested in research. So I actually pursued a PhD in cancer biology at the University of Miami just prior to matriculating to Tulane. What else? I'm very interested in cancer research, and I'm interested in radiology, and I'm trying to find a way to combine those. I've really been happy at Tulane. It's been a great school. New Orleans has been a really fun city to do my medical education in. I'm happy to be here and happy to give you guys some more information.
Thank you, Edith and Andre. And again, Mr. Brian Torres, another current medical student here at Tulane, was unable to be with us this evening. And we will continue our conversation with our students. I invite our attendees to place your questions in the chat. I have a few questions that I'm going to start with, and we will get through as many questions as we can, both my questions and those in the chat. Again, welcome. I will start our conversation, and this question is for you both. Can you tell me what motivated you to pursue medical education, and in particular, medical education here at Tulane? Either one can go first.
Well, like I said, I did my PhD before I started medicine. And during my PhD, we had completed a study on, it was pretty much a animal model with that modeled prostate cancer. And we had found that a drug worked really well in these models. And we published this research, and we started getting like phone calls from a bunch of patients and their family members who were really interested in this research and this drug. And I got an opportunity to talk to a few of them. And I think after those conversations, I kind of realized that I really wanted to help patients more immediately. Research tends to be slow. I knew that that drug would take a long time before it ever hit like clinical trials. It might never get there. So I wanted to kind of be on the front lines in helping patients. And that kind of was my revelation to pursue a medical education.
So for me, I came to the decision of medicine by, I would say, by way of public health. In undergrad, I studied public health and anthropology, and completely loved it. And I realized over time the things that I got involved in, whether it was service work or it was paid work, all kind of had to we're focusing more on the clinical end and not as much on the public health and intervention. And so a lot of them did have intervention aspects to it. However, I craved the being there and physically enacting some of the things that we talk about in public health. I also realized almost everything I did ended up surrounding women and pregnancy and childbirth. Took me a while to realize that the reason why that I enjoyed public health was actually just talking about maternal health, maternal mortality. And it started with HIV. It was actually like infectious diseases and learning about HIV and the transmission of HIV through pregnancy. That's kind of like was first got it clicking. I thought public health was the way forward. And I worked in public health, and I love the field and hope to be able to combine it with medicine. But I got to a point in public health that I felt I needed to be more active. And as much as I love the research and as much as I love the program planning, I also wanted to enact that. Most of all, I wanted whatever it is that I researched or whatever programs that were being initiated in my community, I wanted to be able to physically enact it in my patient population and then to see the results of it. So that's where I saw my career and my future as a way to do direct patient care using public health initiatives, just to be able to kind of reduce some of these health disparities that we see and just have healthier moms and healthier babies.
Yeah, Thank you. Sorry, I realized I didn't answer the Tulane question. Why I chose Tulane. I thought I really liked Tulane. I really liked my interview at Tulane. It was very conversational. I really enjoyed talking to everyone that I met that day. And I like that Tulane has, and New Orleans in particular, has a very diverse population. I grew up in an urban setting. I grew up in New York City and Brooklyn. And I wanted to work in an urban setting. I wanted to work with a diverse population. I wanted to work with patients that look like me. And I wanted to contribute in that way. So that's why I kind of chose Tulane to come.
If you want to answer that same question.
Tulane. Yes, thank you. I visited Tulane when I was an undergrad. I would visit New Orleans when I was an undergrad, and I completely loved it. And I remember it was back when with the old airports, and I remember getting out of the airport, and first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Wow, this feels like Ghana." It was just like it felt like home, even on the physical environment. And then spending time here, seeing the people, seeing the cultures, I just love the city. It was palpable, just the identity of the city and I could see a lot of African influences in the way that especially West African influences, in the way that the culture of the city was portrayed everywhere. So I loved it. And then I was a big fan of Tulane School of Public Health, and it was one of the places I considered for my public health degree. So being right there at the forefront, like any conference you go to, you are going to see some Tulane public health people there. So being here, being a city that already felt like home, in addition to having the School of Public Health as a resource, was just sort of like a no-brainer. As long as I get in, I'm going to be here decision for me.
Thank you. Being that you're both underrepresented in medicine and medical education, would you mind sharing with us some of the cultural or socioeconomic perspectives that you bring to medical education that might be different from your peers?
I think this also may be something that Andre might relate to, but having the both of us being immigrants on here, for me, a lot of my motivation, my inspiration comes from just what I saw growing up and what I continue to see when I go home. And it kind of influenced, I would say, the way that I see health and medicine. To be then just like in the most frank way, I see poverty almost always in health disparities, because a lot of the times it comes to those economic and those educational disparities. It comes so for me, a lot of the times when I think of why things are not going one way, why we see health outcomes being advanced in one way and not the other. I kind of see it from that perspective of what that community looks like economically, what does access to care look like. So I kind of operate from that perspective with like individual patients, even within the public health sphere. Whenever I had a project or something I was working on, that I always realized that that's what I was thinking about. That was the perspective I was coming from. So mine personally, I think is influenced greatly from my upbringing in Ghana, but also living in the US. We were military, so I moved around a few times, and I've seen different lifestyles in different states, different cities, different communities. Even within a Navy base, it looks different. So I also it's taught me a lot to meet different people that not only come from different places but think differently, and their perspective on health also is different. I've learned a lot from those people, so I try to not only remember them, but a lot of it has actually already stayed with them. They've made such big impacts on me. And every once in a while, when I sit down to reflect, I think, oh, wow, like this is actually because of this and this that I experienced a long time ago. So yeah, it'll be my hopefully short answer to that question.
No, that's a great answer. And I think, yeah, we have very similar stories. Guyana is also, there's also a lot of poverty in Guyana from where I was born, and I grew up seeing a lot of that. There's also not that many clinics, and the healthcare system is much has much less resources than the United States. So growing up, this is one of the things that I saw lacking, and as a child, I never really thought about it until later in life. Like how much of a gap there was between the number of providers versus like the people there, and what you can actually, what kind of health service you can actually get. I never like got like I never saw like dietitians or like psychiatry or anything like that, and like no one was getting that kind of help. So I think that did influence me later as I came into medicine, and coming from a country that's has more poverty. I grew up in a low socioeconomic kind of status. So I feel like from that perspective, I'm also very different from my peers. I've had to like work during school, during college to help support my education, my family. So I've had to do a lot of extra work on top of like, studying for things. So I think I bring that perspective, and I think it also helps me communicate and identify with people, especially in the New Orleans community. who do not have a lot or who have low medical literacy. I really feel it helps me connect better with them, and I've had many patient encounters where this came up, and I was actually able to speak to my patients and get a lot more out of them than some of my teammates would be able to.
Building off of your answers to that question, the topic of this webinar is broadening the reach and also the face of medicine and medical education. How do you believe that diversity in the medical field affects your patients and the communities where they live?
I think it greatly affects our patients. I have one example of a patient who and this is one amongst many, but there was a young Black man who came into our clinic, well, our internal medicine ward, who had a ulcer that was the result of like uncontrolled diabetes. And when my team was speaking to him, he kind of just gave one word answers, yes, no. Shook his head when he was told about his condition and what was causing his ulcer, and never really got into a conversation about it. So later, as a medical student, I have the privilege of talking to my patients for a little longer. So I went back to speak to him, and I kind of talked to him about diabetes, and he still wasn't connecting. And then I kind of mentioned that some of my family members calls it the sugars. And when I said that, you could see like his face light up, like sugars, because some people call it sugars, right? That's how they know what diabetes is. And he lit up a bit. He started opening up and talking more about like what causes it and what can be changed to help him not have these complications of uncontrolled diabetes. And one of the things we talked greatly about was his diet. And no one has ever really spoken to him about what can actually increase his blood sugar other than, it's not just sweets. It can be like rice, white rice or pasta. And he was eating a ton of these things. And New Orleans, the diet is it's a little on the crazy side, but having that conversation with him, like you can see him light up. He was asking so many questions about what he can change and to prevent this from happening again. And I think that kind of highlighted to me the importance of diversity in medicine.
Edith, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a different question. Research is an integral part of medical education and practice. Would you mind sharing a specific research experience that you've been involved in during your medical education here at Tulane, and how has it contributed to your growth as a future healthcare professional or even a current healthcare professional?
So at Tulane, I part of the Bakley Scholars Program, and it's a 4-year longitudinal research program where you are paired with a mentor your first year, and you come up with a research project, and you have all 4 years to complete it and write it up. And it's one of the reasons why I chose Tulane, because I wanted to continue that public health research and as I said, being close to the School of Public Health. So before school started, I already looked for my mentor, and I was fortunate to be paired with Dr. Harville at the School of Public Health to investigate adverse childhood events and its relationship with pregnancy outcomes using the Bogalusa Heart Study population. So I know that many people know about the Bogalusa Heart Study because of its influence on heart medicine and cardiology and in Louisiana, but within that study, a subset of pregnant women were surveyed on just during their pregnancy and also retrospectively. So what I looked at was if they've experienced any adverse childhood events, and ACEs have been known. Research shows that they negatively impact health. The higher number of adverse childhood experiences or trauma that you've experienced, the worse your health outcomes are. And a lot of the research has really been in the some psychiatry and like cardiology and such, but not a lot in pregnancy. So we kind of wanted to see if you have a higher adverse childhood experience, or if you have a higher experiences of trauma, does that negatively impact your pregnancy outcomes? And two things I've taken away, two things I've been blessed to do is one, focusing on Louisiana in my research. That was new for me. Before med school, most of my research was internationally focused, or even if it was national, it was globally focused. So while I was here, I really wanted to know more about the state that is educating me and to be able to better understand it so that I could serve it better. So being able to investigate their pregnancy outcomes in a community like Bogalusa has been a privilege. But what I think about that now is just how to interact with my patients, in that we do not know the experiences that many have had. And adverse childhood experiences include coming from a family where somebody has been incarcerated, or coming from a family where you saw a parent was pushed or slapped. So those things, and we don't ask those in our regular daily clinical practice. I will say OB-GYN is amazing in that it is one of those things that we ask because of interpersonal violence or violence within relationships. So it's made me more acutely aware of that. And it's made it one of those things that I just don't forget to inquire about whenever I am asked to speak to a patient, whenever I'm asked to do the initial history and physical of a patient, talking to them, just asking them if they're safe at home. It starts with that. I think it's personally, I'm being able to transfer my research and just the knowledge that I gained, even from knowing about ACEs, to my practice, to the way that I see my patients beyond their pregnancy, beyond their illness, and to be able to know them a little better in hopes of serving them better as well.
So, piggybacking on your research experiences, part of the reason for this webinar tonight is to share with our alum, our friends, our community about initiatives that are going on here at the School of Medicine, and particularly in the Office of Multicultural Affairs. And we have a Diversity and Inclusiveness Initiatives Fund. Would you both mind sharing with me how you have personally been affected by that fund?
Yeah, that fund was important for me because it really helped me to make a lot of connections at a conference. So one of the research projects that I did while in medical school had to do with kind of evaluating orbital infections or infections of the orbit in children. And we wanted to see if there were like radiological signs or signs on images that would be able to guide medical decisions, whether those kids would need medical treatment versus surgical treatment. And we kind of wanted to decrease the amount of surgical interventions in kids that didn't need it, and make sure that kids who had complications that needed surgical management would get it. And it was a really cool project. It's hard to pay for these conferences. They can be very expensive. It could cost hundreds of dollars, and printing your poster can cost another $100. So as a medical student, it was hard to pay for that. And those funds really helped me to gain access to that conference, present that research. I also got to network with a lot of radiologists from different universities. I made a lot of connections. I was able to get letters of recommendations from some of these people. So it's greatly helped me, and it will continue to benefit me for the rest of my career.
So for me, when I came to medical school, two things that were really important to me was how to increase the face of medicine who we were bringing in, and also how we were educating our medical students. And I sought mentors, and I didn't know that medical education was a thing within medicine, med ed. So I've been fortunate enough to have mentors that have been able to cultivate this interest of mine. It's become a passion. It's become something that is like been a central part of my education here, my time here at Tulane. So through that, I've been able to get involved in both admissions, the School of Medicine admissions, as well as working with different committees such as the Racial and Social Justice and Medical Education Committee, And through those, I've been able to do a couple of research projects looking at EDI in our medical education, and also currently a project that I'm working on with Dr. Mike Woodson is looking to see there's a relationship between CASPER scores and medical students' professionalism. And thanks to the Diversity Fund, I'm able to go to the AAMC, which is the Association of American Medical Colleges, a big conference that they have every year called Learn, Serve, Lead, where you are able, and it's a conference full of medical educators and who are passionate about these same things, the way I'm able to present my research there. So I'm very, very excited for that. I would not be able to attend this conference this year without it. So, and to be able to talk about my passions there, to talk about this project, what we found, and most of all, to connect with others as well, to connect with other young budding physician educators out there, as well as those who've been doing it for a while, to make new contacts, get new mentors, because I don't know where this career is going to take me yet, but I know that I'm not going to be able to do it alone. So I'm really looking forward to for the opportunity to be able to be in that space, and definitely would not be happening without this fund.
Building off of what you just said, Edith, you spoke a little bit about mentorship. And I want to ask both of you, in what ways have mentorship, community, and support networks played a role in your medical education? Tell us why you feel it's important.
I can start with that, Andrea. So I think I did not have a true mentor or anybody that I knew personally or directly in medicine until after undergrad. And at that time, I knew I wanted to go into medicine, or at least I thought I wanted to go into, I just didn't know what that looked like. And I didn't realize that you kind of needed to have that exposure to be able to not only look at what their day-to-day looked like, but to have somebody to guide you, to tell you, this is how you get there. These are the classes that you should take, or this is the application timeline, things like that I was not aware until after I graduated undergrad, because I did not have that mentorship. But fortunately, immediately after undergrad, I was able to have such mentorship, and I was working for a physician who has now become a very close mentor of mine up till today, and that changed my trajectory. Not only the opportunity to see what practicing medicine looks like, but also having somebody tell me their story and tell me, oh, this is to someone to simply say, when are applications due? And for me to like really start thinking about it, because my idea of what getting into medicine looked like was different from what it actually was. And until I had somebody that was in the field, I had no idea how to get there. And it's one of those things, if you're ever new, if you all remember when you're new in a career, it's hard to see what that looks like if you don't have others that have done it, or even others that are doing it with you. And I felt so blind until I had that first mentor. And through her, I've met other mentors, and through my peers who also were in who got into medical school before I did, some of them became my mentors, because they could sit me down and say, this is what I did to get there. And I can tell you that I would not have gotten into medical school when I did without any of them, without the mentors that were 20 years my senior, or even the mentors that were my peers and my friends, because they guide you. I always say they kind of just give me the glasses to see, because we have dreams, we have goals, and if you don't see it represented in your life, you don't know what that looks like, you almost don't know where to go and what the next steps are. So I've been very, very fortunate that mentors got me here, and that since I've been in medical school, they've cultivated my interests. They've encouraged me. I've had new mentors at the School of Medicine that now all I said was, I kind of want to do this thing. I really care about just sort of like what we're teaching, how we're teaching things, some of the things that are important for us to know. How do I do it? And having one person say, go speak to this person, they're interested in this kind of work. And that from there, it builds a network, and I'm able to see what each of them are doing and what a career could look like for me in both practicing medicine and being an educator in the future. So would not be here without my mentors. Yeah.
I don't know what I can say much more different than that. But doing my PhD for medical school, I kind of had an idea of how important mentorship was, because that's kind of a requirement for the PhD. Like, you have to have a mentor to do research, right? And my mentor was extremely important to me. She really helped me to develop as a student. And she also pushed me to med school, actually. Like, when I had those doubts about whether I should do it or shouldn't do it, she encouraged me. And that was extremely important. And as I, on my interview day, when I spoke to him, a shout out to Dr. Mike Woodson also. When I spoke to him, like, he really kind of gave me a glimpse of the community at Tulane. He was so welcoming. He's just a very nice, very awesome person. And then I met Dr. Horn, and she helped me with resources and getting textbooks for those first classes. So I started to see like really great community at Tulane. And because I knew the importance of mentorship, I sought out a mentor for radiology when I first came, because I knew I was interested in it. And I met Dr. Cynthia Hanneman, who wasn't before, but now she's the current chair of radiology, and she was extremely important in my path. She encouraged me to apply to internships my first year. I was able to get into ACR peer internship, and I learned so much about radiology over the summer. Continue to fall in love with the field. And she's been a support for me since my first year of medical school. So it's been a over 3-year relationship right now. Also met mentors during my internship that have written me letters, have given me encouragement. Whenever I feel like, even applying to like the internships have been stressful, and I doubted myself, I would like reach out to Dr. Hanneman, and she would give me some words of encouragement. She would tell me that you will get it, don't worry about it. And it just encouraged me to keep going. And med school is extremely stressful. And I think having that community, having mentors to push you forward and help you see like the destination, because sometimes it's hard to see the destination with all the stress. I think that's extremely important, and it's one of the most valuable things I think you can do in your training. Mentorship is almost more important than studying sometimes, but definitely study. It's extremely important. It'll keep you going. It'll give you encouragement. It'll give you motivation. It'll give you the energy you need to push on when you feel like things are dark or so yeah. I just think it's you have to have mentorship in these higher education, especially in higher education.
So I will continue with, in your role, share with us how you feel, or what role can donors and organizations play in advancing diversity and inclusion in medical education? How can they continue to support students like yourselves?
So I think students who are underrepresented in medicine, and students who especially students who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, we are at a severe disadvantage when we finally matriculate to medical school. Only because a lot of things that make you a competitive applicant cost money. A lot of things that make you a competitive applicant, like paying for extra practice exams, or paying for an OA rotation, or paying for that extra 20 interviews in person, or those things cost a lot of money, and some of us cannot afford that on our own. So I think donors can definitely help in that way, in helping to continue to fund like Multicultural Affairs Office to continue to support students in these things, because we just can't do it on our own, and that severely limits us when it comes to applying to residency. Another thing is more exposure to undergraduate students who are interested in medicine, but cannot afford to, like, you know, pay for exams or pay for a tutor, or just not have the exposure at an early enough age to know what medicine really is about. I think starting initiatives that kind of give a more of a pipeline or even a glimpse of what medicine is to those kind of students is extremely important in increasing diversity in medicine.
Definitely agree with everything Andre said, especially on supporting pipeline programs that allow minority students to get a taste of what medicine looks like and to nurture their dreams and their goals. I will also add to it within the School of Medicine, and our medical school is to increase the face of faculty and staff, to increase the diversity of faculty and staff, because when we see people in those positions, we know that that's possible for us too. It also brings another avenue of mentorship. I have mentors that come from different walks of life, but I will say that those that look like me, it's always a different connection because we have similar backgrounds, we have similar perspectives of the world, similar perspectives of medicine, of things that we experience that are just different. And to have somebody from a similar background and to be able to go to them and to be able to go to them when you've had an incident or something, and for them to understand that that's important. And I think that's something that we can do a much better job at here, is to be able to increase that diversity up top of faculty and staff, because it not only does that improve the care that we're giving our patients here, but it also improves the mentorship and the relationships that we give our students, and which plays a big role in just the way that our medical education goes and how prepared we are for a life in residency.
Thank you both. I want to encourage our webinar participants to put their any questions that you may have for myself or for my students in the chat. I'd like to ask an additional question. Is there anything that you'd like to share that is unique about Tulane School of Medicine's approach to diversity and inclusion?
Great question. I will say, so as someone that has been fortunate to be part of the Racial and Social Justice and Medical Education Committee and had the opportunity to work with some of our deans, I would say, and also the opportunity to present work at conferences or speak to other students and hear what they're doing. I would say we are doing good work. We are doing good work. We're doing work that others are aspiring to do, that others want to do. And every once in a while, when I'm in those spaces and I talk about some of those initiatives, either through RSJME or through the medical school at large, and others like, oh, how did y'all make that happen? How did that come about? It's refreshing to see. But then there are also times where I hear other things and I think, oh, it's going to take us a decade to get there, maybe. So the great things that we're doing, but also lots of room for improvement. I think a good and a very special thing about Tulane is that students are heard and are listened and heard, and that we've been fortunate to have people in positions like our Dean of Academic Affairs or our Director of Admissions, and you, Mama Horn, to be able to listen to us and appreciate our ideas and our initiatives and help us make it happen. And not only that, make it sustainable for future medical students. So from my perspective, I think that's the fact that you all listen and you all give us the opportunity to implement change is an advantage to being here.
Yeah, I think that's a huge contrast for me too. Like I haven't had the opportunity to speak about this like outside of Tulane, but from just my experience in graduate school before this, like during my PhD program, we didn't have any EDI sessions. I was the only Black student in my class, and there were no sessions on on diversity, no sessions on microaggressions, no sessions on anything like that. So I when I came to Tulane and I saw this being developed, it was a huge contrast to my experience as a graduate student. I think Tulane does a great job, in listening to us and making changes, in providing education on subjects that are tough to talk about. And I think they've done it in a great way. They've made it very conversational in our clerkships. Students are participating. They're sharing their opinions. They're learning about different biases and the things that affect students who don't look like them, or students who come from a different place than them. So I think Tulane has done a great job with that.
Thank you. We've had a question come through the chat asking in particular how our DIF fund, or Diversity and Inclusiveness Initiatives Fund, has directly affected students. And I will answer that because that fund is handled through my office, and we've had the opportunity to have our students do several things that they wouldn't be able to accomplish. Our student, Brian Torres, who could not be with us tonight, was able to travel to our Latin Medical Student Association national meeting to attend that conference, to network, to present research, to lay the groundwork for future away rotations and things like that. Similar to that, our local LAMHSA chapter had the opportunity to host a regional LAMHSA meeting where we hosted medical students from throughout this region to come and spend a couple of days here at Tulane. And the DIF fund provided funds for that meeting, where there was research presented, where there was service and outreach to our local elementary schools here, were also those opportunities for them to interact with faculty, to hear about their research and things like that. So attending and hosting both regional and national conferences has occurred. We have made it possible for students to attend the national AMEC meeting, which is the Student National Medical Association meeting. We also support initiatives for our GWIMS chapter, which is the group of women in medicine. And as Andre and Edith have both shared, we also often take the opportunity to support students to go and present research. There are quite a few students who are matched with mentors who are conducting research throughout their time here at Tulane. But when it gets time to go to do those presentations, to go do those posters or those platform presentations, that's kind of where the rubber hits the road, where you're able to network, where you're able to not only be mentored, but to mentor other students, where you're able to make those connections, because now we're in residency application season. No pressure, Edith and Andre, right now. But in order to get a foot in the door, to networking, to things like that, we've also been able to interact here locally with the community. We have partnerships with community organizations where we go into not only the undergraduate institutions, but also to the high schools. And we're now next month going into a middle school where we're going to have some of our medical students interact with Black and brown girls. So to introduce them to science, even at middle school, is exciting. The earlier, the better, so that they can see themselves in our medical students, just like we want our medical students to see themselves in faculty and staff. I will now go to check the chat to see if we have other questions. Not a question, but a comment, but we have a comment that says, I realized Tulane worked towards diversity when we attended parents meet before this year's white coat ceremony. Kudos to you all. I'm sure that comes from a parent of one of our current students. And just want to let our community that came to see us tonight, to let you know that we are intentional and on purpose about our EDI efforts. It is not, for us, it is not about checking boxes. It is not about us having so much of this and so much of that and so many of this group and so many of that group. It is our intent and our goal to weave it throughout the medical student experience for our students, not only in their curriculum, but in their service opportunities. And this DIF fund is a prime example of how we use our EDI efforts to benefit our students. we want to make sure, my line to the students is, my goal is not to get you into medical school. My goal is to get you out. And I want your experience here to be complete. I want you whole and complete, and I want you to be able to take advantage of all the opportunities that you can to enhance your medical education and also to influence your medical practice. I will double check our chat one more time. I don't see any more questions in the chat. So we are at about a quarter till our ending time. If I could ask Andre and Edith maybe to give us a couple of final thoughts, either on your experiences here at Tulane, the effect of our DIF fund, and I'll let you go first, and then I'll give mine. You're muted, Edith. Edith, you're muted.
Thank you. Wow, you would think after 3 years I know how to use Zoom. I am sorry. But I was saying that it's a tough question. And I think I would like to see, like as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my efforts here has been into both like who we bring in and how we educate our students, myself included. So I think on the end of like who we bring in, I would really like to see just more support of any initiatives that come out of the Office of Admissions, of Student Affairs and Admissions, and to really I know that coming to medical school in general is not only is it like a financially a barrier, like not only is finance a barrier, but also just access to it. So to truly see a Tulane pipeline that is underrepresented in medicine focus would be amazing. I think that's just something I'd love for the school to be able to do. I know it's possible, and to have the support for that would be great. And then to support those students in the way that you all have been doing once they're here. But I think getting them here, I know that we've done really great work with increasing our diversity, but there's still so much work to do. And I think such pipelines would be a great way to do that.
Thanks, Edith.
Yeah, definitely agree with the pipelines. And one interesting thing during my graduate experience, I don't know if Tulane does this, but we used to give tours to high school students and you know, even younger kids like junior high school students in minority groups of the campus and of our laboratories, of the experiments that we do, just to get them more interested in STEM. I don't know if Tulane does anything similar, but that's something we could also think about doing. My time at Tulane has been pretty awesome. Like, that school is stressful no matter where you go, but I think Tulane has been pretty awesome. Our dean of medicine, Dr. Ledoux, is amazing. She's a shoulder to cry on, and all the faculty here have been amazing. Dr. Woodson continues to reach out to me, and we talk every time I see him, and we usually have a great conversation. So I really feel like the community has been very supportive. And I think Tulane is doing a great job with including minority students and including more sessions on EDI and why it's important. I think continued support for that is very important. And continued support of students like me who you know would not be able to afford to go to, you know, multiple conferences or go to away rotations is very, very important. But that's my final thoughts.
I'd like to say thank you both to Andre and Edith for participating in our webinar tonight. I want to especially thank our audience, our alum, our friends, our community for sharing this hour with us. It's been enriching, it's been informative. If there are questions that you have that we were not able to answer, if you drop them in the chat, we can most definitely respond to you. I want to encourage you to examine how we can broaden the reach and the face of medicine here at Tulane School of Medicine. The DIF Fund has been able to support research, has been able to support our students. We have also began with the pipeline programs that you've heard our students talk about and discuss so that we can show medicine as not just something by chance, but a real opportunity for those historically underrepresented in medicine. Our community is one that is known for being diverse. We're known for being resilient. We're known for all of the great things that not only Tulane, but that New Orleans has to offer. I encourage you to stay in touch with us. If you are able to, I encourage you to donate to the DIF Fund to support initiatives at the School of Medicine. This is a passion project, and my passion is my students. So thank you all for being with us tonight, and have a good evening.